All right. I have been trying to do this live stream for a while and I keep having problems, and I think today's the day. Not gonna lie, it's been pretty annoying. Just trying to be on here, answering questions for people like I used to do. I am going to be going to Dallas in 2 days. I will be driving there and I'll start working probably in like 4 or 5 days there. I'll be there for about 3 weeks. As always, when I'm in Dallas dealing, come say hi. I'll be at TCH, one of the two properties, mostly overnights, but beggars can't be choosers. I really appreciate TCH letting me do this every other month. Love going out there. Also, I want to say hi, Julian. Every time I come into the room, the dealer, Julian, always says, "Hi, True Poker Dealer," and makes me feel like a superhero, which is both embarrassing and hilarious. So, appreciate that. Looks like the internet's working this time, so I don't have to reschedule. I'll be able to keep going. I do want to remind you, the more questions that you put in the chat, the better it is for me. Much easier for me to talk in response to something than it is to sort of make stuff up as I go. But I did come prepared with some extra topics today. If you're here, say hi. If you're watching later, leave a comment. Definitely appreciate the whole True Poker Dealer community. Really appreciated you guys the whole time. I mean, this is like 13 years now. It's sort of mind blowing to me that I'm still here doing this, but I'm really happy to be. It's really nice getting to still be in the industry. I've left it at times. I've come back. That's one of the things I love the most about being a dealer is it's there for me when I need it, and I like to be there for it when it needs me. And let's see. Hi, long time Pitt, new poker dealer here. Oh, cool. 83 Aqua Star. Hey, what's going on? Well, appreciate you saying hi. You are my first comment in a live stream that I've had for a really long time because I haven't done as many live streams recently. Um, oh my God, glad you're back with a live. I've missed you. Oh, appreciate you guys. Really, really appreciate it. I do have some pretty fun topics to go over today while I'm not answering questions. If either of the two of you or anyone else have questions or anything that you want to say, happy to talk about that too. I did get a text message recently from somebody that I had helped get a job as a dealer. They work in Florida, and they were asking me in the text message, they said they really love the job, but like they look around and they see that there are a lot of dealers that end up getting burnout. And I really wanted to talk about that. I told him, this is a really good topic for a live stream. It's really hard to text and answer to something like that. There's a lot of context there. But first I just want to name, like, that does happen. Dealing poker, especially 40 hours a week or more, a person can really experience burnout. Um, I have a note that I left for myself. There's a real thing that happens for poker dealers when you first get that job. There's so much that's new. Like, I teach people to pass the audition. Like, anybody can go be at home and learn right here on YouTube how to deal poker. And that's great. 35 hours plus worth of lessons and all that stuff. And you practice, 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 and you pass the audition. But once you get that job, first of all, you're earning money in a way that you probably haven't been before. Otherwise, why would you take that job for a lot of you? And then also, there's so much to learn. It takes 2 to 6 months to really get comfortable. And then if you want to fine tune your habits, it takes even longer. And that makes the time fly by a lot of the time. Like, you're there with these detailed, subtle experiences, a lot of nuance that you're getting familiar with. You're asking people, the supervisors, the dealers in the break room, like, how do I handle this little example? What do I do here? And so on and so on. And because of that, there's just a ton of learning. Like, I like to think of it as the learning versus earning phase, right? In the beginning, you're learning, you're improving your ability to do the job and improving your ability to earn. And then once you've successfully got to the point where the job is sort of second nature, which usually takes about a year, maybe even a year and a half to really get to that just relax, comfortable, come into work, do the job, go home phase, that's when you're in the earning phase. And if you're in the earning phase, which is where most people get burned out, where they've mostly learned, and then here they are. Well, first of all, this has a lot to do with how much you enjoy poker. Are you there? Is there anything interesting to you about it? Little tiny gnat flying around in my face. If you're there and it's interesting to you, um, you're going to be less likely to have burnout, right? Why did you choose this job in the first place? Did you hear a line that I said where it's 25 to 40 plus an hour, and then you're just like, I want to change my life, but I don't really know what poker is? Or were you like, I play poker, I love being around the game, I love being at the table? Like, which place did you come from? But there is one other major thing. I just want to read a couple comments real quick. I get burnout when the money isn't matching the effort. Totally makes sense. I want to talk about that for a second. And player 0007-13, these YouTube names are different than I remember. Hello from Germany. Hey, what's going on all the way in Germany? I appreciate that comment, just to give a little perspective to anyone that hasn't seen a live stream in a while. I talk to people from all over the world about poker, and it's dramatically different all over the world. And that's interesting. And I mean, I'm always learning. I was talking to somebody the other day in the comments on YouTube about um, the one-handed pitch, and I was going to talk about that a little bit today if there's time. They were saying how, well, actually, I don't even know if it was the one-handed pitch. They said that they deliver the cards to the players as opposed to pitching them, and they do that a lot so they don't have to teach people how to pitch so that they can hire people more quickly. A lot to say there. They said when the felts are bad, that method is awful, which makes sense to me because that's what I was imagining. But yeah, so there's a lot to talk about with the burnout concept. Learning versus earning is a real important distinction. When you're in the learning phase, the burnout is going to be much lower for people. When you're in the earning phase, it's going to be a lot higher. But there's another thing too, right? Are you are you building a life for yourself where, keep in mind, just like Aquastar said here, I get burnout when the money isn't matching the effort. Okay. Are you putting yourself, this is a job where the money that you make is variable. You might I've had days where I've been at 60% of my hourly for the whole day. And I mean, putting in, like, when I go to Dallas, and I'll be there for 3 weeks, like I said, coming up very soon. When I go to Dallas and I pick up shifts and I work, 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 if I work an entire shift and make 60% of what I would normally make, it does hurt. And I have to remind myself that this is just like this. In order, I have really good days sometimes. And this is the other side of that coin. This is the nature of it. And I can't go into work with an expectation. I can give myself a goal, but I really have to be reasonable, right? Like, am I coming in expecting a certain dollar amount, or am I coming in just wanting to put the hours in and focusing on it more like that? I appreciate you using that comment. Like, I went to go play poker around here. I live in Asheville, North Carolina now. So when I go to Dallas, I travel for it. And I drove about an hour and a half north to the southern edge of Virginia. I assume it's a southern edge. It's the tip where North Carolina meets Virginia. And they opened up a Hard Rock Seminole property there. And I went into the poker room, and I mean, there was a large casino. It was packed in there. And they were doing signings. Like Chase Utley and Dale Earnhardt Jr. were there that particular day. They were doing all these signings. You had all these people. I had to walk through the casino. I didn't know where the poker room was when I parked. I had to walk through the casino, past the massive amounts of people that were there waiting to get their autographs signed by these two star athletes. And then that was actually uncomfortable. I just put my hand below the table because I'm not at a real game and you can't do that. But I'm still at a poker table and I felt uncomfortable. That was weird. So I walked down past all that stuff and into the poker room, and there was one table going on a Friday at noon. The poker room had only opened a few months before, and there's not necessarily a culture of poker in that specific location. And so there was one 3 no limit game with one seat open, and I sat down to play at that game. This was about 5 weeks ago or so. And, of course, I work in the industry, so I understand what I'm looking at when I'm there. I understand that there's at least 3 or 4 dealers that are all there that are sharing that one table. I understand that, there's 5 old man coffees at this table that are tipping $1 no matter how much they get for the pot. I understand that when uh, this like 35 to 40-year-old guy stacks somebody at the table, and he's just like, he's got a beer in his hand and he totally forgets to tip. I understand what that feels like for the dealer. And you know, you might say you're as a dealer at the table, you should say something to him. It's a gray area. In Dallas, the players are so nice. They're the types of people that are going to throw you their last $2 as loose change when they go all in a 2-5 and lose, but they don't tell other people to tip. And because of that feeling that I've been around for the last few years, like in Florida, the people would tell someone to tip if they forgot. In Dallas, they don't. There's such good people in Dallas that I find myself sort of modeling that. And I actually found myself not saying anything to the player when the dealer, I could tell, like, you know, that look, right? You know, that look when someone gets about $800 in a 1-3 game in a pot, they stack somebody and they get nothing. And I mean, my point in all this is I imagine with four dealers for one table, they're not feeling too good. The money's not matching the hours or the effort. And, you know, I really imagine that that doesn't feel good to them. And things like that can happen. And the question is, like, what do you do as a dealer when you're putting in hours and hours and hours, and how did I end up in this situation sometimes is what dealers ask themselves. And oh, my body's starting to hurt from dealing 40 hours a week going on 10 years, 11 years. So there's a few things that come up for me when I hear this. And you know, specifically for Matt who wrote this text, I want to give this as clean of a response as I can. So the first thing that I'll say, we talked about learning versus earning. When you're in the learning stage, enjoy it. It's not going to last forever. It for some people it might last longer, right? The more you like poker, the longer the learning phase is going to last. I've definitely seen people in the learning phase really enjoying it for as much as like 3 years. And I think for me, the learning phase, it comes and it goes a little bit. My situation's a little unique as True Poker Dealer, but I think for me, the learning phase started mostly as the dealing learning phase. And then because I have an interest in the game of poker, um, it sort of stopped at the dealing phase, but then I started again in the playing phase, meaning I don't play that much nowadays. But when I'm at the table, especially at some of the bigger, more challenging games like the 2-5 PLO in Dallas, I definitely find myself in the learning phase, but it's like learning as a player, just like imagining if I were a player, what would I be doing here? Could I beat this game? Which players would I want to be going up against in pots? All kinds of things like that. Things like what's really happening in this moment where this player is having a conversation with this player. Is it genuine? Are they trying to keep them at the table? There's so many different things that are happening. And so the learning phase for me for some of this lasts a long time. And it comes and it goes with my interest in the game of poker. For somebody that has this job that doesn't care about poker anymore, the learning phase is going to end pretty soon, and that's okay. And here's what I'll say. Um, the the feeling of burnout comes when, because I've experienced it a little bit at times too. The feeling of burnout comes when essentially you feel like too much of your life is at that poker room, at that poker table, and there's no way out unless you change careers or something like that. So 40 hours a week where you're a poker dealer and you're dealing 40 hours a week, and you know you're making your 25 to 40 plus an hour, and you feel stuck, like you can't even imagine yourself working an extra 5 hours a week to change your circumstance. And also, what's an extra 5 hours a week going to do financially for you? Is it really going to make a difference? Are they even going to let you do that? I know people who don't care about poker that are dealers that have made a conscious decision to go from 4 or 5 days a week down to 3 days a week in order to help with the burnout. Then they just go in, they're sort of hanging out with their regulars, but they're getting the majority of their week to themselves. That helps a tremendous amount. Dealing poker is one of the nice things that you can do where you don't have to do 40 hours a week in order to pay for your life. And I mean, that's a really nice circumstance. Now, not every poker room is flexible. I do think more and more poker rooms in general, especially ones that are busier, are creating the space and the structure for dealers to use apps. Like Deputy is a great app. Paylocity is a decent app. There's software nowadays that allows people to swap shifts much more easily than the pen and paper method that it used to be when I first started. Scheduling can be done through apps now too. Like technology does make it better. And when you can change shifts, you're able to create a schedule that fits your life a little bit better. It's not as rigid. You're not as stuck in your schedule as you used to be. I remember when I was a shift manager and a supervisor, when people wanted to swap shifts, it always felt annoying to me because it was a lot of work on us. And the trickiest part of it was holding somebody accountable who didn't show up for their shift, right? Like they could easily say, "Oh, I thought we were going to switch. We didn't switch." The systems weren't that airtight. Nowadays, when it's electronic, you actually send your shift to somebody, they accept it, and the electronic schedule shows, "Oh, this is my shift now." And that makes it much easier to hold someone accountable. It's whoever has the shift. Electronically, the system is pretty perfect. Not 100%, but pretty darn close, where if you have the shift in your name, it's your shift, and it's just clear who actually didn't show up. uh Pausing Burnout 1 second just to talk to the comments. Let's see. Oaksterdam 420. I'm in Las Vegas. It's been hard to find a job after the series ended in July, but I keep my hopes up. I don't really know what the temperature is in Vegas right now in terms of getting poker dealer jobs, but I definitely wish you good luck out there. And I would always say consider other parts of the country, but not everybody can just up and move. That's like one of the huge benefits of being a dealer is you can up and move and find jobs in lots of locations in the country if you're willing to do that. But one of the downsides is if you have a family or own a house, or other situations that keep you where you live, you're sort of limited to the poker rooms that are available around you. Um, so yeah, hopefully you enjoyed working the series. I thought about doing that this year. It was only like a 10% part of me that thought about doing it. I was like, the real thing that I would want to do for the series is I would just want to deal the main for a couple of days and leave. I doubt that they would let me do that. Maybe, but I didn't even try. But let's see. Aquastar says, that's where I am now. I work 45 to 50 hours a week, have a 2-hour round trip commute, and am barely cracking 1K. The burnout and homesickness, I'm in Florida. Um, West Virginia is home, is so real and strong right now. So, yeah, a lot of people end up in a circumstance where, I mean, especially with a long commute and long weeks, if you're driving an hour or more, whatever it is, you do not want to go and work 5 hours. I mean, if you live 5 minutes from the poker room, working 5 hours is great. The poker room that I work at, they actually let you post on the app, "Hey, does anyone want to finish my shift?" And then someone will just come in and they'll essentially be you. And this works in part because the low base pay at the poker room I'm at, which I love, allows dealers to work overtime. So they really don't have to monitor a whole lot. When dealers get a higher base pay, the companies don't want to pay overtime, and it's a huge pain in the butt. But this structure where you can finish someone's shift, you can pick up shifts, all that stuff is incredible. Um, but yeah, so I mean, this is a really good example. You can put yourself in a circumstance where you're working 45 to 50 hours a week and you're experiencing that burnout, and there doesn't feel like there's any way out. And that's one of the ultimate challenges. So talking to new people getting into it, the one thing that I would say can change everything for you as a poker dealer is having a concept of time in this job and understanding almost everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody that does the poker dealer job. And I was like this, and I look back and I'm like, oh, I missed a huge opportunity. Almost everybody that does the poker dealer job has the opportunity when they're young and their expenses are low to accumulate extra money. You could even just discipline yourself like college, right? 4 years, make an extra $1,000 a month, or if you work at the right place, a week, put it aside, and you'll be able to accumulate investment money if you do that from a real disciplined place. And then once you've made it that far, You don't need to work so hard anymore. But, if you're working 45 to 50 hours a week already, there's only a few things that you can do. Aquastar, I would ask you, what shifts do you work and what days of the week? I think that that's important, and I want to highlight something for you that's worth just being truthful about. I'm curious, before I try to say it, I'm curious what your answer is. But going back to the idea of burnout here, so if you're existing and you're doing something like working 50 hours a week, 5 or 6 days a week, and you're bringing in all that money, however much it is for you, and you're finding yourself like barely making ends meet, you're not really able to put money aside. um, I would say that that can be a difficult life. If you're in that situation, like what options do you really have? Like, you could choose to discipline yourself and work um 60 hours a week. It'd be a hard life for a handful of years, and then take all that extra money and put it into investments. And those investments you'd have to know what you're doing, right? Obviously, this isn't financial advice, but it's a simple type of advice in the first place, right? Like, if you were to put this into mutual funds and you knew which ones to put them in, and they would get an 8% return year after year, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you would actually be able to put your money away in a way where it just goes up and up. I calculated recently, I had this whole conversation with ChatGPT about this. I've been thinking about making content about working towards something as a poker dealer for a while. If your expenses are low and you're young, and you can put away like $1,000 a week, um, and put it into mutual funds, every $1,000 a week you can put away, sorry, if you can put away $1,000 a month and put it into mutual funds for 4 years in a row, that $1,000 a month that you put away every single year for 4 years, with like 8% annual compound interest. Eventually, if you keep it in there, after 4 years, you stop adding to it, you don't work anymore, but you don't touch it for the next 26 years. After 30 years, the 4 years that you worked, 26 years after, at 8% annual interest, ChatGPT says $1,000 a month turns into 250 something thousand dollars. Um, Actually, no, it's got to be higher than that. No, it was 563. See, this is where I wish that I could just, the live video part is really difficult. So I'm going to say this one more time, and I'm going to say it accurately. $1,000 a month for 4 years. If you're putting it in mutual funds at the end of the month for 4 years, $1,000 a month, that at 8% average annual interest in those mutual funds is going to end up being like $560,000. That's what the number was that ChatGPT said, and you can plug that in yourself. So that means that you earn it, you put aside 1,000 a month, and then you put it in mutual funds, and then you stop after 4 years. You don't do this past 4 years. You just discipline yourself for 4 years. Think of it like college, right? And then the next 26 years you don't touch it. You let it continue to accumulate interest, etc. That's over $500,000 at 8%, according to the conversation I had with ChatGPT, which I've had a bunch of these, so I think it's right. And I calculated, if you can put $4,000 a month away, you'll have over $2 million if you do the same thing. Working $4,000 a month for 4 years, you just go super hard. And why would you do something like that? Because at the end of that 30 years, you don't have to worry about anything. You've got like $2 million if you do 4,000 a month, and then you can just relax for the rest of your life and live off the interest, hypothetically, with inflation, blah, blah, blah. What is this? I worded that way worse than I wanted to, but I think you still understand what I'm saying. Um, Aquastar says, I work 5 to 3 a.m. Tuesday to Saturday. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's the beginning of snowbird season, and my lease is almost up. You know, I used to live in Florida. I used to work out there. Excuse me. I don't know where you work in Florida. If you chose to go to Florida to deal poker, I might suggest you try Texas. I don't know how long it's going to last, where like my feeling is working 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. Tuesday to Saturday, there are definitely places where you're going to be doing better than $1,000 for 45 to 50 hours. Just some quick little math here. Maybe I should be able to do this as my head, but I can calculate pots. That I can do. But oh, this computer can barely handle it. I type one thing in and the whole computer says, Let's see. So I just want to put this in because I'm curious, and everybody here is probably curious. 1,000 divided by, we'll say 50. So you're saying that that's $20 an hour. Is there a base pay on top of that or anything? It that seems really low to me. I'm a little bit shocked to see you saying 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. Tuesday to Saturday, 45 to 50 hours a week, and you're barely cracking 1,000. I mean, that's right on the bottom of the the tips that I mean, I talk to people all over the country. I will acknowledge, sometimes there's other countries outside the US that the dollar amount is just it's a totally different system. So you can't really predict it. But in the US, I would expect more than that. And I can tell you for sure, I don't know of any poker rooms in Texas where you're going to do just about barely cracking 1,000 for 45 to 50 hours. And when I've been in Florida, I would still think it would be higher than that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't been there in a while and I just don't know. Um, what's going on here? Why does it seem like I'm frozen? Oh, because it's just a weird coincidence. All right. So yeah, I'm curious to hear a little bit more about that. But um, that's definitely a difficult situation, and I would say if you can move, consider somewhere else. Um, but you said the lease is up, or say, I'd rather not say where I'm dealing, but it's a small place and in the middle of nowhere, and I'm a blackjack roulette craps dealer. I would love to get to the guitar or Tampa. My base is low, 313 an hour. Pool tips. Oh, I see. I understand now. So I thought that you were saying you were a poker dealer, and I thought you were saying as a poker dealer, you were making that amount. And that for a small casino for table games, I used to work at a small casino for table games in Washington State. They're not even open anymore. And I think that the tip rate after everything, plus base pay, I think I was making about $16 an hour. The big casinos, I mean, sometimes they'll beat poker dealers. I've seen large casinos where they have tons of action. The dealers can make more than $50 an hour. But I understand now. Pooled tips is a totally different thing. So now this makes sense. So yeah, I mean, in your situation, so you're actually in a really interesting situation. I don't know where you live. I don't know where you're traveling from. I don't know what your circumstances around that. If you're able to move, you did mention that your lease is almost up. If you're able to move, I would definitely recommend trying to sort of level up yourself so that you can get into the higher paying position, whether it's, I mean, hypothetically, if you're in table games and you're in a Seminole property, I used to work for the Seminoles. There's a lot that they do unbelievably well. And then they do have some rooms that you wouldn't be talking about because you don't live in that exact area. But there is like, the classic casino. Everybody knows that when you're a table games dealer, a lot of the time you start at classic for Seminole, and everybody knows that the tips and the pay ends up being less at the classic casino, right? Now, my information's a little bit old because I haven't been out there in a while, but everybody that's there at the classic casino at Seminole is basically putting in, back when I was there, they would be putting in their like year or two in order to be able to get to one of the larger properties where the tip rate's better. And once they got to the larger properties, they loved it, right? When I say loved it, what I mean is they loved getting way more money. Aquastar says, "Ha, I broke in a joint in Washington, Swinomish, and I've been looking at one BDs since my son is grown. And I've been looking at one BDs since my son is grown." one bedrooms since my son is grown. I get it. Cool. Well, Washington is a good spot. I've never been to Swinomish, but I have friends. I mean I started working in Washington State. I was at the Nooksack River Casino back in 2007 to 2009. Now that I realize like how the world works a little bit better, I realized that I loved the people there. The tribe was nice to me. The other people that I worked with at that particular casino were great. Um, but also like you could be making, I mentioned that I was making like 15.50, 16.50 an hour out there because it was a very small casino and the tips were pooled. And even poker was shared with the table games, and there was just a lot of time when the casino was pretty dead because it was sort of in the middle of nowhere. And um, I realized after the fact, so many dealers would learn a deal there and then leave after 6 months. I stayed for like 2 years because I felt loyal and appreciative that they trained me and all this stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, I understand that I probably should have left. I could have made more than double the money. I could have like, and also I have my partner, her brother always talks about how at his age, he's younger, he's in his 20s. He says, at my age, every dollar I spend is worth $35 for my like lifetime dollar amount. I always think that's interesting to think about, right? Like when I was younger, working for $16 an hour, if I had gone to another casino, which I didn't like the tension of the betrayal and I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be loyal. But when I really think about it, like I cost myself so much. I could have gone and worked somewhere, made almost double the money or more. And I could have accumulated that money, invested it, and it would be worth so much more. A simple rule of thumb that I like to think about nowadays is every dollar that you put into that 8% annual growth triples every 15 years, right? So it's a good rule of thumb and it's a good way to think about things. And I could have really gotten ahead and I didn't. And there are a handful of times where I messed that up and I'm fine with it. I'm happy to be where I am. I'm happy to be who I am. But in your case, I would absolutely be trying to find a place that pays more. And it's a little bit uncomfortable until you get it done and then it's comfortable. And if you can, there's a guy, Naval Ravikant, who he's got this book, The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. It's a great book. It's a free download, a free PDF if you just look it up and download it off his website, or you could buy the book on Amazon or whatever. But there's one thing that he says in there where he talks about um, as your money goes up, as you start making more money in life, it's very easy for your expenses to go up with it. But the people that end up with the most money are the people who don't increase their expenses when they increase the amount of money they're making. And I mean, in that moment, when you're used to spending a certain amount and then you start making more, if you can hold on to the amount that you're used to spending and be okay with it and have a plan, man, can that make a difference in life? And I definitely have some, they're not regrets, but when I think back, I could have done things better. So just worth saying that. Aquastar says, do you offer refresher videos? I haven't dealt poker since 2022. I remember Hold'em, but can't remember stud. So I appreciate that question. You got two options with me. I have an entire course, like a complete course on how to deal poker, and it goes over absolutely everything. And there's two places that you can get it. You can get it right here on YouTube. Just join my channel. The Omaha stud and mix game version, when you're joining, is the one that has access to everything that you're asking for. The Hold'em version is good. It does everything but the mix games. But you can also get the exact same thing on TruePokerDealer.com nowadays. I've included the Omaha stud and mixed games content, and I charge a little bit less on the website. Um, and I can afford to do that because YouTube takes like 30%, so I don't have to worry about that on the website. So if you go to TruePokerDealer.com, you can literally just get the course. It includes everything. You pay by the month, but it's $80 a month on the course. There might be tax or something, excuse me, and that'll cover literally everything that you need. It'll cover stud, it'll cover PLO, it'll cover mixed games. And I mean, you might just put it on like a podcast since you dealt a few years ago and just remember everything that you were experiencing then. But yeah, I mean, there's literally nothing better. As a dealer, you understand dealers make that back in less than half a day. And so $80 a month, you just get it and then you cancel. And if you do it on the website and you're savvy about it, I've set it to give you 2 weeks from the moment that you cancel. So if you wait until almost the end of the month and then you cancel, you get 2 weeks from then. So you get even more. So um, let's see. You said hopefully you break down PLO better than my poker instructor did, with an LOL. So I have a very good video on PLO and how to calculate the bets and all that stuff. And then also there was somebody a couple years ago that did a session with me. I do one-on-one sessions for people, which I mean you could do that too. It's more expensive than the course. It's like 199 for the session. But this person didn't have the money. And I said to him basically, and now he's got a dealer job and he's doing great. But I said to him basically back then, like, here's what I can offer you. If you want, I can record an audition session with me, which is basically like a feedback session. And he needed to do it on PLO. And so you can watch that in the course too. That video's in there, where he goes over the things that he's not clear about, and then I correct him, and you can basically learn from that too. So you have the lesson on PLO, and you also have the basically mock audition where he's having me do PLO because that's what he needs. That's how the mock auditions work. It's whatever the person needs to work on. That's what I help them with. So yeah, if you get the course, like you'll be fine. It will give you everything you need. You'll go into the audition confident. And if you feel a little bit nervous and you want to do a session with me, it's not too expensive. You just reach out. I'll set it up with you, and hopefully that will be everything that you need. But honestly, if you've dealt poker before, chances are you'd be fine with just the course for 1 month is what my guess is. And then, like I said, you can cancel it toward the end of the month. Um, and then it'll get 2 weeks from the time you cancel. It's just I built that in because these platforms don't make it easy for some reason. They make it so that uh, when you have people that get your course and then they cancel, like the intuitive thing is to make it so that it gives them the rest of that month access, but they don't do that automatically. So I just arbitrarily chose 2 weeks, knowing that people would take advantage of it. And if somebody like canceled right away, they still get 2 weeks. And if that's not enough for them, they email me and I'll just make it work. But yeah, your PLO stuff should be absolutely fine. I appreciate that question. I also appreciate the unintentional plug you just let me do about because for the longest time, my website, the True Poker Dealer website, I only had the Hold'em version on there, and nowadays I've added the Omaha mixed games and stud as well. And I mean, it used to be $50 a month on the website, but I upped it to 80, but I included everything. So now because it's 100 on YouTube if you join the channel. So I just figured it's fine. Like everybody's fine. Plus, people on the website are they're getting a little bit more access to me anyway. But let's see. So let me just finish this thing with burnout real quick. So I know a bunch of dealers that are dedicated when they start the job. I've had this conversation with them. I appreciate them having this conversation back with me. They're young and they like one person only has 1,500 a month in expenses, another person only has 1,000 a month in expenses, another one has 2,500 a month in expenses. None of them have kids. And we've had these conversations, and for some of them it's a little hard like to really stay disciplined. But all three of these people, they go in, they try to work as many hours as they can a week. They try to hit a number as a goal for the month, and once they hit that goal for the month, they relax the rest of the month. One of them does it like they count the month ending on the 10th because sometimes it can be a little harder to get shifts going into the first because people pay rent. But for all of these people, they're putting away a lot of money every month. And why am I talking about this in relation to burnout? Because when you have a plan to change your life and you have an understanding of money and the long term, man, does it make a difference. All three of these dealers are going to be in fantastic shape. They're taking advantage of it being pretty good in Dallas right now. And I mean, there's other places that you can do this for sure. They're taking advantage of it being good in Dallas, and they are accumulating this money, putting it away. I've heard them talking about what investments to put money in the break room. And man, my heart sings, and also I'm a little jealous. Like I wish when I was in my 20s I was doing this. But I mean, to me, this is the difference between burnout and having a plan. Because for them, let's say they do it for 2 years, let's say they do it for 4 years, whatever it is that they're focused on, after that time is up, they're going to be in a position where now they only really need to work 2 to 3 days a week in order to pay for their lives, or they can get something else going, or I mean, all kinds of options become available. And I personally hope life can be pretty easy to say, I worked really hard, I did all this stuff. Let me just take this money and use it for this other thing that came up, whatever, and not care. I can just go get it again. I hope that they are incredibly disciplined about letting that money stay in investments. I hope that the people who help them figure out what to invest it in know what they're doing, because if they can, once that money, in my opinion, once that money hits 1.5 million, $2 million, you know, like you can really get that to grow, putting away $4,000 a month if you can. I mean, you can easily make, if your expenses are 1,500 a month and you're working 50 to 60 hours a week, you can easily make $6,000 a month, if not more. You can put all that extra aside. That's an incredible situation to be in, letting the compound interest grow and grow. And once you've got your future secured, once the money that you have invested hits a certain number, that's it, you're done. You have zero obligation to go make money for yourself. All you have to do is just pay for your life until then, which is a little easier said than done, especially if you have kids. But I mean, that's what dealing poker can provide for somebody. Um, let's see. Marvin Kruder says hello. Hey, how's it going? And thank you for being a member on the YouTube channel. Appreciate it. How is the course going? How's the lessons going? How's it going for you? Curious. Um, let's see. So another thing I want to talk about right now, just because it's funny. I recently have had an unbelievably positive experience with barefoot shoes as a dealer, which is a thing that's like wild. Like I came from casinos where everything had to be dress shoes and blah blah blah. But nowadays they make barefoot shoes you can get on Amazon for $40, just like a one-time purchase. I actually have a link to it. If you just click my YouTube channel, you can find my Amazon store, and those are products I recommend. The barefoot shoes are on there. Yes, I get 2 to 4% of it. It's like not that significant, but this is not why I'm talking about these. Like I have actually seen dealers at the table take their shoes off before, and I've thought to myself, that's a little over the line, right? But with barefoot shoes, I have been able to feel like I'm barefoot at the table. They're completely black. And there were actually other dealers that were already wearing them before me in this poker room. I didn't even realize until I got them. Man, if your poker room allows you to wear barefoot shoes, I absolutely recommend it. I do not recommend it though if you're a table games dealer that has to stand. This is only for dealers that are sitting, that are poker dealers that are sitting. But it just feels like you have nothing on your feet. And I just wanted to name that. The context of it doesn't matter. It's incredible, though. Um, let's see. Clubs 617. I wonder if that's the area code in Massachusetts where I'm from. It says, I don't know where to start with investing, just tuned in. Well, I will just name. So going back to what I was talking about with investing, if you want to keep it simple, so I don't have the license or the capacity to give financial advice here. But what I can say is if you can figure out how to do about 8% annual, which, people say if you invest in mutual funds and stuff like that, you can hit, um, that can grow over time. And, 8% annual, I was saying earlier, if you put $1,000 a month away for 4 years, at the end of each month for 4 years, $1,000 a month, and you can figure out what things to invest it in and average about 8%, and then leave it there for another 26 years after that. 30 years from now, that's going to be about $2 million. No, 30 years from now, it's going to be $560 or $560,000, at $1,000 a month. 4,000 a month is when you get $2 million. So I can't give you the answer to what to invest in. I just did the math myself with ChatGPT in order to figure out how much you actually had to put away. in order to make it so you could retire, right? We don't have 401ks in the casino industry. We just have to rely on ourselves. If you can put that money aside, the goal for me, for anyone, should be $2 million. And once you hit that, you can live off the interest, right? Do you have to take it that seriously? No. But what do you invest in? I don't know. I mean, I'm just a guy, and also I'm a little scared to get in trouble talking about financial stuff. So I actually don't feel comfortable naming this because I haven't properly talked through with like any attorney or anything how to talk about this on YouTube. But um, there's plenty of people that would be able to answer that question. And so 8%, what I'll say is 8% is a reasonable amount from what I understand to be able to hit. So I also don't know where, but I would say the first step to being able to invest money is to create a relationship with like Schwab or whatever the companies are that you put the investments into. And I think that doing some research and just dedicating yourself to a couple hours to start is a pretty powerful thing. Marvin says, you are one of the best instructors out there. I appreciate that. He also says, I've learned a lot from you and just can recommend you to everybody out there to take the membership. Oh, I appreciate that too. Well, thank you. Definitely thank you. Let's see. Aquastar says, my coworker wears skeletos and swears by them. Yeah, so the barefoot shoes that I have linked there, there's just a tiny bit. I probably should have got them, but I don't want to embarrass myself and show my shorts that I'm wearing right now, and get up and leave. But the barefoot shoes that I have, you can see the link on my channel. Like they only show a little bit of the toes, which I actually like. They're just completely black, and unless you stare at them, you can barely even tell they're barefoot shoes. The skeletos, I'm sure they're great. But for me, it's literally about how does it feel, and these ones feel great. Um, let's see. Jodamar, sorry about how I said that, says, I wear slippers most days, LOL, but I deal a private game. I'll definitely check those out. Oh, Hit Girl. This is Hit Girl, by the way, if you remember me. Of course I do. You were up north and you had like a little, it sounded like you had a little underground room or something like that back then with a few tables, couple tables. Well, that's really awesome that you're back here. Wow. Yeah. So it's been a while, right? Because it was maybe 2020 when I started recording the course live and you kept jumping in there, and then I was doing live streams after that. Well, it's good to see you. How's that room up there going, by the way? So, so just going back to the barefoot shoes real quick. I think it's important for every dealer to have these little tiny details that they give to themselves, that we give to ourselves in order to reduce the tension while dealing. We talk about burnout. What's a little detail, and these things add up. What's a little detail that you do? Maybe say this in the chat. What's a little detail that you do as a dealer to help you feel more comfortable, last a little bit longer, have less tension, have less stress? I can tell you a few that I do. One thing that I do is barefoot shoes. One thing that I do is I have every once in a while I'll go to like Walmart or something and get a $10 yoga mat, and I'll cut it into the shape of the dealer chair. And you can do a few of those with one yoga mat. I think I was able to get like 6 or something like that, maybe even more. And I'll have one in my car, except in the summer in Dallas, the thing completely melts, so I don't leave it in the car then. But I keep one of those in my car, and I always keep one of them on me when I go in. And I sit on it, and it's great at preventing the butt sweat from the dealer before me, but also like the yoga mat itself, the friction on the chair is just really comfortable and nice, and I like it. If I had bad chairs at the poker, and we have really good chairs in Dallas, if I had bad chairs there, I might get a full seat cushion, something like that. But I'd have to figure out the right one. That's a really good one that I do. I don't see other people with the cutout yoga mat like me, but I really enjoy that a lot. That definitely gains that 1%. Another thing that I do, I adjusted my pitch from like pushing my fingers all the way out when I pitch to just like this real, let's see, can you even see it? This real gentle pitch. And that really helps. Like I don't get trigger finger. Even if I work, you can get this pain right here in this finger from this motion over and over and over again, even if I work 75 hours a week, which I don't do that much, but I have before. Um, Even if I hit that kind of number, I don't get the trigger finger. And I'm really paying attention to my body as I'm dealing and just like, oh, are my arms tired? What's tired? How can I make it so that I can change this and reduce this from getting worse and make it easier? Slippers is awesome in a private game. And I love that a lot. Let's see, what else do I do to make it a little bit easier on myself? Yeah, what are my little tension reducers that I do? Maybe I'll have to think about that and just do a piece of content on it. Let me see if there's anything else up there. Oh, another thing that I do. So when I'm shuffling, yeah, I notice sometimes if I'm like pushing on the cards too much, and if you have your fingers on the cards when you push them in, I assume you can see here. Uh, yeah, you can. Then it puts some wear on your pinkies. But if you do a light riffle there where there's not a lot of push going into it, and then the same thing here, you don't put pressure down on the cards, a light pull in, you can really just do this shuffle and just have it sort of feel relaxed the whole time. And I'll actually relax my hands as much as I can here. I also notice that, and I've had this conversation with dealers. A lot of dealers, they have this real tight grip, and then they say that their hands are tired. And it's like, well, yeah, you can't loosen your grip so much that you're going to drop the deck, though. That would be a problem, right? And if that happens, obviously you can't just pick it up like that. But having a relaxed hand, a relaxed other hand, all that stuff, these little details that you just paying attention to your body, like right now, I'm doing a live stream and I haven't done one in a while and it feels sort of tense. Um, if this were me dealing, I would notice that tension and I would find places to relax. So what I did just now, I imagine I was dealing and I moved my legs forward a little bit. I let blood flow a little bit better in them. I stopped perching the top of my foot down where that was getting tired and I just relaxed my feet. I'm constantly doing this at work. um, all these little details, and the reason that I can do something like that, and some of you can relate to this, is I've done this job for so long that I have extra space in my head to think about this stuff while people are playing the game of poker without it taking away from the game. So I have enough space because I've really worked on my dealing game where I can think about the things that are beneficial to me, and then this stuff becomes habit. I mean, the goal is to train as much as habit as possible so that you don't have to think. Let's see. Um, Jodimar says, I feel so embarrassed at saying that. I don't know why. Jody Mar, maybe. I don't know. We just built a new room and have been running 5 days a week, a mix of PLO and Hold'em. Now that poker is booming again, we are running into other private rooms opening and splitting up the player pool. Hit Girl was easier for me to pronounce. That's really cool. So, all right, hold on. Let me. I guess I was self-conscious about mispronouncing your name potentially, and even though I read it out loud, I didn't actually hear it. Hold on a sec. I see. So it sounds like the player pool being split up, the implication there is that's a little bit challenging. But also, you built a new room and you've been running 5 days a week, and poker's booming again. So that sounds good. So that's great. I really enjoyed when having, there is a certain nostalgia to the old school True Poker Dealer live streams, and man, it was really helpful having you in those chats. I definitely appreciated that you were there, talking about all the stuff that you were experiencing and asking your questions. And yeah, I'm feeling a little nostalgic right now. It's been years since I did this regularly. Let's see. Clubs 617. Eating is important. Most nights I don't have a lot of time to eat on breaks, so I get burnt down and want to take my cut instead of staying longer. Yeah, eating is an interesting one. So I find myself bringing. Okay, so first of all, one of the most annoying things in the world to me as a dealer is like having to poop while I'm at work. I hate it, but you got to do it when you got to do it. the bathrooms are fine in the poker rooms. Like that's not the problem. It's just like you the last thing that I want is to be dealing a game and having to go to one or two more tables and get that feeling. And I'm just like, oh, I don't want to have to like hold this. It's embarrassing to talk about, but it's like human, right? So I have to. Um, and because of that, I actually don't like to eat much while I'm in the poker room, while I'm working, because when I don't eat, it doesn't trigger that need to go to the bathroom, right? Um, and at the same time, like sometimes I'll work 16 hours. Well, if I'm going to work 16 hours, sometimes I do that. And yeah, I've worked 16-hour shifts by choice. And like I can't do that 2 days in a row, or maybe I've done that before, but uh so food for me, like I'll make sure that I bring a couple of bananas if I can. I'll try to bring a meal. Also, the poker rooms that I work at, you can usually get food if you need it. I'll try to bring like something like granola bars or something like that. But I agree, like I usually have a meal after my shift, even if it's a long shift, and then sort of hold myself over. Oh, I don't know why, but I found I really like having green apples. I think it's because I like did this juice cleanse with the green juice a while ago. This was maybe 10 years ago, maybe more. And I just created a relationship with green apples. And I find that if I have at least one green apple a day, while I'm dealing poker, it really helps me fight off all this stuff that's coming in. And especially since COVID, in a weird way, I'm appreciative for COVID because I wash my hands before I touch my face 100% of the time now. It's almost like I wouldn't dare touch my face in any way before I wash my hands. So that with the green apples, like I try to keep myself healthy. The bananas, I don't want to cramp up. And I don't know if it's real or not, but I hear that bananas stop you from cramping. But I also know that there's this funny video with this, I think he's a Japanese baseball player saying that he eats lots of bananas because banana monkeys never get cramps. I don't know. Um, Maybe I just like mix that all in my head into one thing, but I like having bananas. Like it makes it easier to be there for long periods of time. But I generally don't eat a meal. Every once in a while I will. Just, if I'm hungry, I'm hungry. But yeah, food is a challenging thing. Um, I do make sure to have breakfast though, like or whatever, I might start working at 5 p.m. Well, breakfast for me, that means I woke up at 2 probably, right? So it's still breakfast. It's just later in the day, but um, I think everybody's relationship with food is a little bit different, and being mindful of your own needs and your own relationship with food is incredibly important. And I appreciate that comment a lot. Um, Let me see. Aquastar says, I tell myself that this is temporary and it beats working retail customer service. Facts. Even though you're dealing table games in a split tip pool, I do agree it beats all those jobs, especially in the hospitality industry. Y'all be nice to your front desk people from an ex-Hilton employee. Um, Hand warmers help with achy hands. That makes sense. I've never seen hand warmers in poker rooms personally, but I spent almost all of my casino career in Florida, and um, and Dallas is pretty warm too. But that makes a lot of sense. Trying to picture. See, I lived in the Northeast in Massachusetts for almost 25 years, and I just hate the cold. Like I get cold headaches, my ears hurt in the cold. I like thinking about hand warmers reminds me of living in a place I didn't like. That was why I went to Florida for 11 years after that. Um, let's see. Yes, Aquastar. I always try to remind myself that even a bad day is a good day compared to other jobs. Facts. It's funny. There's a guy that I'm friendly with that runs a room in Florida, poker room, and he came from the hotel industry. And like I hired him as a dealer in South Florida a long time ago, and then we promoted him to dual rate, and he was a supervisor too. This was his journey in order to get to be the room manager. And he would talk to me all the time about how he used to work in hotels and how unbelievable it is to be able to deal poker and make better money and not have to deal with some of the nightmares that you deal with when you're working in a hotel. That like he was telling me these stories, I just like I mean I don't even want to say it because of stuff, but like the bugs that you see and all that stuff, like, and then some of the complaints and the stuff that people do in the rooms and all that. I stay in hotels a lot of the time when I go to Dallas. I don't want to think about this right now actually, but I believe you is what I'll say. Let's see. In Barkity. Maybe I shouldn't pronounce the names. Hey, I have a question. It's easier for me to pitch with my left, but easier to handle chips with my right. From what I understand, moving the deck between hands is a big no-no. What should I do? Um, Easier to pitch with your left, easier to handle chips with your right. Interesting. Never heard that before. Huh. I mean, the first thing that I'll say is you're like the simple, obvious advice that I almost don't want to give you because it's so simple and obvious is learn to do one of those two things with your other hand so that you can just be consistent. I do see in Europe, like one of the things that I don't like about the one-handed deal, which I've never even tried to do, but like they're basically, I don't know how you hold the deck. I could learn it, but they're basically like flinging the card off as they go, and then this is their hand that they do stuff with. So at the end of that, they switch the deck with their hands. Yeah, in poker we say not to do that. There's a video that I saw recently. It might be that video that came out recently where they were talking about the shuffle machines, like the shuffle machines that can be manipulated with a USB drive. I don't remember, but I remember that whatever video it was I saw recently, there was a guy that works in security or something like that, and he could manipulate a deck just by putting his hand on top, which I assume is why nowadays we teach when you cut the deck, you square it right here and place it in your deck, and you never do this. You never do this. You never do this. Like you never cover the top of the deck. Why? Because people who can cover the top of the deck can do something with it, right? But um, yeah, I mean the simplest answer is you really can't switch hands with the deck and stay completely in integrity. But also, like something that I've really appreciate having learned more and more over time is you can see there's a couple of dealers that I've seen in different poker rooms across the country who they do switch hands with the deck sometimes. Like one of them is a larger gentleman and he's a really nice guy. And I remember he used to do this. He would switch hands with the deck in order to use his left hand over here because he just like he would sort of get in his own way. He couldn't really reach over here. And there's such thing as procedure, and procedure is incredibly important. And then there's such thing as being human, which is also incredibly important. And in your case, maybe you can go to your manager and you can not just tell them, but demonstrate to them how much easier it is for you to do one or the other with one hand or the other. And I will say, like, if you're trying to pass an audition and you're still learning, well, that becomes a little bit more challenging. But if you work in a poker room, maybe they will let you do that and you just spend your entire career telling the players, I'm a weird type of upside down, inside out ambidextrous. I mean, if you ask and you come from a real honest human place, some places might say, you know what, we don't allow that, but we will let you do it because we understand why you're asking to do this. And the poker players will get used to it. And like I said, every once in a while, they will say, hey, you're not supposed to do that. And then you say, look, you're totally right. I have gotten special permission from this poker room. Here's why. I know it's super weird, but maybe you feel a little uncomfortable for a second, but also you're going to go home having met someone who has this weird thing with their hands that you've never seen before. So maybe it's worth it, right? Like if you can literally ask for a human exception. Like there's dealers that have these little sticks that they use a stick. They look like windshield wiper, like the ice pick things or whatever, and they pull the chips in. It's sort of like craps, but for poker, they're clear so that they don't block anything. And they allow the dealers to use these in some places so that they don't have to hurt their back and reach as far, etc. So, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility, but the simplest thing is just to teach whichever hand you can to do the thing that it's not good at. I am not good at cutting chips with my left hand. I do it sometimes at the table, and sometimes I just reach way the heck over there with my right hand and cut the chips like that because I just want to be faster. But I guarantee, like, I played basketball growing up, and there was a stretch of like 3 or 4 years when I was in high school where I was really good at making left-handed layups, and then I stopped doing it and the skill went away. I can still do it a little bit, but not as good. But like you can develop the skill with your bad hand. So it just takes a lot longer, unfortunately. Let's see. Let me jump down. You didn't say anything else there. No problem. Clubs. I relieve people for that all the time. If I don't go in the morning, it's not going to happen. Oh, talking about the bathroom. Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing too. Like there are definitely times in my career where I've had to say like, "Hey, can you tap me out?" because I have to go to the bathroom. It mostly happens when I've had coffee recently. Man, that is one of the worst feelings as a dealer. But also like there's a way you can just be like, "Hey, I'm human. You guys know that you're human too. Like, hey, can you tap me out?" Like ask a supervisor, you ask another dealer, something like that. And if you're on break and someone asks you, unless you really, really, really can't do it, please help them out. I know your breaks are important to you, but you know how rough that feeling is of having to go to the bathroom and being like, and being stuck at the table, right? Okay, I don't want to talk about that anymore. Um, Boss makes a dollar, I make a dime. That's why I blank on company time. Oh, I could have said poop, author unknown. Yeah. Yes. Well, and as a poker dealer too, if someone comes and taps me out, so I guess I'm still talking about this. If someone comes and taps me out and I'm in the bathroom, like they're either keeping the tips or like if they're a floor and they're not allowed to do that, or maybe they didn't bring a box or they sometimes people just drop them. I'm gonna hook them up. Like you got to be appreciative if someone's helping you with that. Um, Let me see. Aquastar says I keep protein powder shakes at work. Um, the hot hands packets that you stick in your pockets. Yeah, that makes sense. The cold is also why I'm in Florida and not West Virginia. Used to have family vacations in Florida regularly. Makes sense. Club says I used to be a GM of a hotel. I agree completely. And then practice, practice, practice. Yep. It took me like 2 years to finally pitch well. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean that's another thing too. Your pitch will evolve over time. Like yeah, I'm not going to demonstrate, but I guess it's hard for me to remember what I used to pitch like is the truth. Um, yeah, it's so nice. The number one thing that helps, and if you're taking my course right now and you're watching this, just really internalize this. When you're learning the mechanics, you're learning to shuffle, you're learning to pitch, all that stuff. The number one thing that helps you really internalize this is hitting REM sleep. It will literally smooth the mechanics for you. Once you like, if you spend 2 hours shuffling, riffling the cards, just riffling, or doing a full shuffle, and then you go to sleep, if you give yourself enough time, what you really want to do after you learn the mechanics, especially, is you want to let yourself sleep until you wake up naturally that next morning. That's the best thing you can do for yourself. It will almost do the practicing on its own, save you hours, days, like make you so much better. Highly, highly, highly recommend internalizing that. No name something. Hey, I watch your poker videos. In fact, my instructor sent me your videos to help learn. They've been a great help. A question I have is how do you get practice if you can't get it? Um, yeah, I'm aware that the dealer schools and casinos get one membership to my course sometimes and then share it. Not crazy about that, but also I totally understand that like that's probably what I would do too. I have mixed feelings there. I'm just naming it, but I appreciate you just saying that in the first place, and I'm so happy that I got to help you learn how to deal poker. Hey, I watched your poker videos back then. Yeah, so how do you get practice if you can't get it? How do you get practice if you can't get it? I assume that you mean how do you get practice if you don't have access to a poker game? Or how do you get practice if you can't get. Yeah, can you rephrase that? How do you get practice if you can't get what? Would be my question. Let's see. Next question says, thanks for the answer. I bought the course and it helped a lot. Will probably still practice cutting chips with my left hand. All right, well, there you go. Wait, cutting chips with your left hand. But you said handle chips with my right, pitch with your left. Right. Okay, I gotcha. So if you learn to cut chips with your left hand, then your deck is in the right hand, and then you can just do that. Yeah, that's probably the best thing to do. Um, So what else did I have in my notes? Oh, creating shorts. I put a note that says creating shorts. So if you've been paying attention to my channel recently, you might have seen some of my YouTube shorts recently. And I did this face like this because, I told myself for the longest time I wouldn't cater to YouTube shorts and I wouldn't cater to like quick hits of pleasure as poker dealer content. And I mean, recently my friends and family and my partner especially, like, they talked me into the idea of bringing new people into the industry, and the way to do that, and they're totally right, is to create content that's appealing to people that don't really know much about poker, and make things that are satisfying and silly. So like I have a YouTube short out there, and I just want to express this part of myself for a second, and I guess be seen in it. And like there's a YouTube short where I say something along the lines of my favorite, and there's truth in this, of course. I say my favorite thing about being a poker dealer is when the player in this seat or this seat lets me see their hand, and then in my head I can play along with them. And it's a funny thing because it's so appealing to just like a casual viewer, but someone that plays poker, especially during the daytime, especially in a place where the players are real, like how players can be during the daytime, they might really be like, what the hell, and so I just, there's a part of me that has to let that go and just create content that's interesting, especially to new people that I want to sort of bring into, like, people out there that might really like dealing. I mean, you guys know, right? How many people, like, how do people first start being poker dealers? You almost have to stumble upon it in some way. Um, like I remember there have been so many different people in retail jobs that are just so good at multitasking, and I know they're not making more than $15 an hour. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, like, you would be an amazing poker dealer, but they just never stumbled upon it. It's just, that's not where their life went. And then if you do stumble upon it, you have to choose, to do it for 6 weeks. So I've literally decided I'm going to make interesting content, trying to get views, and really trying to bring people into the idea of poker dealing. Of course, I do sell a course. I want to bring people into it. And so far it's gone really well. But man, there is this little feeling of like a little tiny bit of cringe over some of the little videos that I'm releasing, just because I know that it's targeting views, but that is what shorts are all about. So I surrender, and that's also where I'm like here creating long form content, answering questions, so that there's that balance. There's something about doing a live stream if I'm creating shorts, that's sort of medicine for me, when I can talk about real stuff and just have it be like long form content, and people can listen to it while they're driving to or from work. You said you drive an hour each way or 2 hours round trip. Like, anybody in that situation, this is perfect for you. I've got lots of old live streams for that too. Anyway, thanks for listening to that little aside, I guess. Um, let's see. Oh, I can hear my son. He must have just got home from school. Hey, I'm doing a live stream, but welcome home. That means that I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. A couple of more things that I just wanted to name. So in one of my YouTube shorts, I was talking about, what was I talking about? I was talking about when, like, I used to be a supervisor. I did a ton of auditions. Like, I've hired well over 100 dealers, probably closer to 150. Oh, maybe even 200 or more. Because I forgot, I did 300 auditions all at once when we opened a poker room. Or maybe I did like 90% of them. Maybe I didn't do every single one of them, but it was most of them by far. And then for the next handful of years, I did the majority of the auditions after that too. And so it was just like, constant, and hiring people and then not hiring people. And there was a comment that I made when I was talking about, that's what it was. I was saying, when you're auditioning for a poker dealer job, the number one thing that I was looking for when I was auditioning people was, like, aside from all the details, I asked myself, does it feel like poker when you're dealing? And I forget exactly what somebody said, but somebody that I auditioned in 2009 that I did not give the job to, basically commented like, here's what I did, here's what you said to me, hey, this isn't consistent with that. And this is somebody that I'm friendly with nowadays. Like I run into them actually in Dallas, even though the audition was in Florida, and he's a really nice guy. And uh, at the same time, like, he's been telling me for years that I'm the one that failed him. And like every time he thinks of me, he thinks of that. And I'm sort of the face of him not passing his audition. And I just wanted to name for anybody, as you guys are like going through your careers and all this stuff, like that's a part of it. There are so many people. Like if I gave someone the job, I'm the one that gave them their first job. If I failed someone in their audition and they did not get the job, I'm the one that I'm the face of them not getting their job. And it comes with the territory. And I like nobody ever said that to me. Nobody ever told me years from now, the people that don't get the job are going to remember me for failing them in the audition. And I might have shown up a little bit differently in the auditions if I had known that back then. I just sometimes I can't even believe how long this sticks with me. And also at the same time, like it's true. Like I am the one that failed him in the audition, and maybe I could have passed him. Maybe I was right on point with what I was looking for. But yeah, I just think it's funny, like being the face of, I mean, over 20 people have told me that I failed them, including somebody that I work with now. And he looked up and saw me 12 years later, a dealer in the room that I'm in, and said, "You failed me in my first audition." And he laughed about it because obviously he's doing fine. But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that I never really thought about. And then I lived it. And then for years, I'm the one that failed them. And it's just, just naming it, I guess. Um, let's see. No Name says, yeah, I just wanted to say if you can't get into a poker game, but also he told to watch the free videos and recommended to buy your course. Oh, I see. So if you need to practice and you can't get into a poker game, there's a couple of things that you can do for practice. Number one, you can see if there are any local charity casinos. I've actually tested this out once in Florida, and I mean, look, I'm me, so sometimes they need you to come in and audition. I just sent them to my YouTube, right? And they said, yeah, we can have you come and work a charity event. Um, but in Florida, there were a lot of charity casino events where you could deal different games, and poker was one of them. And if you only know poker, they're much more likely to say yes to you if you know enough to be able to like sit there. And it's great practice, is the whole point that I'm making. You can also try out bar poker, great practice. I'm assuming that you don't have access to a home game. Otherwise, why would you be asking this? But that's another option. If you can work your way into a home game and just tell them like, hey, I want to practice, it's a great option. And then also, like if you're taking my course, you can certainly, let me think. So a lot of the videos, I'm just doing instruction on a table that looks just like this, with chips that just look like this, or that look just like this. And you can set up scenarios for yourself and then work through them. And it's very similar to being in the game. It's not the exact same, but it will really help you a lot to literally set up chips on this type of table. Just be warned, if you do get this table, I have a link to it in my Amazon storefront. And if you do get this table, it takes like a couple hours to set up, and there's a couple details about it. Literally, if you buy the table, feel free to send me an email. Sometimes it take like a week or so to get back to you, but if you have trouble setting the table up, I can. Um, uh, I'm just thinking like if I take a week, that sucks. But okay, here's what I'm saying. I can help you with some of the challenges of setting this table up. You should be able to figure it out, but I've built two of these now. This is not the first one that I filmed the course on. This is a replacement, and it's super cheap nowadays, which is really nice. I think I got this table for about $100, and I think now I think it was on sale, but it's gone up. But I mean, it's a freaking poker table. That's nice. Plus, it has like the bank built into it. Um, but yeah, the other thing that you can do if you're looking for a poker game or something to practice is, in the course that I have, I do an audition with somebody. There's two different versions of it. One I audition myself, and then another one I audition somebody. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, and we go over PLO and stuff. Sessions like that, you can actually send me an email and we can set that up. I'd be happy to do one-on-one sessions with you. And I do charge for it, but I mean that's like if you're feeling anxious for your audition or something like that, you can just set up a session with me and I basically audition you, and it helps give you that feel of, oh, this is what an audition feels like. And then also I give you the like I'll give you a copy of the video later. You watch the video later, and every single thing that I corrected during the whole session, like it's so much easier to pause a video after watching it, train something 20 times until it's like in your bones and you don't have to think about it. Unpause the video, watch to the next thing, pause the video, train it over and over and over again. Like the whole idea is I clean you up, and in cleaning you up, you're training this stuff into habit, so you don't need any brain power for it anymore. Like if you're having trouble with the rake, then I'll correct you on the rake, and then you're going to practice it over and over again until you get it 100% of the time without any issue. And it takes time on your end to get all that work in. But I mean, if you have a nice little setup like this, something like this, a table, some chips, you can get all this stuff pretty inexpensive. Like I try to keep the training materials that I recommend to be as inexpensive as possible. If you can set that up for yourself, it makes a huge difference, even if you're not dealing a real game. And also, in order to pass an audition, it is very helpful to deal to some players. Um, Sometimes if you have a local casino or a local poker room, you can go in and you can ask them, hey, do you guys ever do like little sessions where somebody can just sit at a table with some cards and chips and deal to some people? You just never know what you're going to find out. At Texas Card House Dallas, there is a dealer, really, really good guy, one of the best, who just, he likes doing stuff like that. And he does it with, he gets permission from the poker room. They use different cards and different chips, but the people get to practice, and he like runs these little sessions. So you don't know until you search around and ask. If you're living somewhere that doesn't have casinos or any of that type of stuff, like, I mean, maybe you can join like meetups or something like that and just find out. But those would be the best suggestions that I think I have for that. Um, all right. Well, I'm going to give you guys a couple more minutes to ask any questions. We'll say 2 more minutes to ask any other questions. Man, I really appreciate being back here. It has been a long time since I've done this, and this was sort of a test for me to see, like, what does it feel like to do live streams in my new home in the new city that I'm in. I tried to do a live stream yesterday, and I found that my internet router was just far enough away that it didn't work, and so I had to stop it in the middle, and then I deleted it, and then I moved it, and so like, okay, I see where I'm at here. So I finally figured out this has worked. I was able to do a live stream. Appreciate you guys, and so happy to be back. And Hit Girl, really good to see you. Um, yeah, what happened to your other YouTube handle? uh, let's see. No Name says, thank you so much for answering my questions, man. This is actually awesome. Oh, great. I'm glad that was helpful. I'm always trying my best to provide insights that I have, and I'm the only one here talking, and it's just a chat, so I don't always get to know if the stuff I'm saying is exactly what you want, but it's the closest to the truth I've got, right? It's true, poker dealer. I try. Um, Anything else here to talk about? No, I think we covered it for the most part. Well, I appreciate you guys very much, and let's see. It's been about 2 minutes. I don't see any more comments. And so I will say thank you. And, hopefully I can get myself on a regular schedule for these live streams so that they're predictable when like they used to be. And until then, thank you for being here for this one. Take it easy, guys. Doesn't seem to be stopping. I don't know why. Okay. I'll have to delete the end of this.